Good good morning, all, and welcome to this lecture of electronics. And we have almost completed this paper one, in which we have all studied the semiconductor devices, right from diode, transistors, and say then we have completed with the MOSFETs, FETs, and lastly, in the last unit, we are completing now. We are concluding with the last topic of this unit, that is the UJT. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, I guess my screen is visible to you. Okay, so yeah, I guess my screen is visible to you. And yeah, let me introduce myself. Myself, Dr. Andy Meshram, Head and Associate Professor, Department of Electronics, Sri Mathura Das Mohta College of Science, Nagpur. And today we are going to study the uni junction transistor, that in short we call it as a UJT. Right? So, what is an UGT? So, we'll have, as the name suggests, we'll have the single junction of a PN type of a semiconductor, and that is called as a unijunction transistor. Right? Let us see what is a unijunction transistor. What is the construction of it? So, unijunction transistor is another solid state three-terminal device that can be used in gate pulse timing circuits and trigger generator applications to switch and control thyristors and tracks for AC power control applications. So this is again a power device which can be used for triggering, say, diac or track, thyristor or track, say a CRN track for AC power control applications, right? So this is the symbol of say UJT. B1 and B2 are the two terminals, which we call it as base one and base two, and we are having an emitter over here. So in the case of a transistor, we were having it as the base, and in this case we are calling it as a emitter. So in transistor it is the same symbol like the transistor, so just a difference that the names are being changed. It is base 2 and base 1, b1 b2, and the base terminal is now say eliminated and written as the emitter. Okay, so we are having this as the symbol of UJT. So we'll be drawing this. Now, what is the construction of a UJT? So UJT just looks like this. So you are having a N channel or N type of a semiconductor, which is very lightly doped, and we have induced a P type of a semiconductor slightly above in the from the center, right? So it is towards B2. So B1 is in the bottom side and B2 is on top side, and the emitter, which is supposed to be the p type heavily doped semiconductor, which is induced in this n type of material, and this is a junction that we are forming, p and n, and that is why it is called as a unijunction transistor, since it is having only single junction, that is pn, and therefore it is called as a unijunction transistor. So what is the resemblance of it? So we are having b2 and b1, right? So if you are able to see that this B2, this P which is induced is slightly towards the B2 and it is away from B1. So the resistances of this N channel changes or can be have this. So uh, right. So this is the construction of that. So equivalent circuit UJTs have unidirectional conductivity and negative impedance characteristics, acting more like a variable voltage divider during breakdown. So we are having a voltage divider sort of a circuit. Now, what is a voltage divider circuit? Voltage divider circuit is nothing but the two resistive uh, voltages. So we are having two resistances and we are trying to divide the voltage. Now, how it appears. So this is how it looks like. So we are having two resistances. A voltage divider network is actually having two resistances. Resistance one that we are here calling as RB2 and RB1. So if you remove this emitter now and you just see these two resistances, so we'll have a simple potential divider network. The equation of this potential divider network will be, say, the output voltage which will be taking across this RB1. So the output voltage VO can be written as equal to RB1, across which we are expecting the output voltage, RB1 divided by RB2 plus RB1 into V in, right? So this is the equation for the voltage divider potential divider or voltage divider network. And now, if you go through this UJT construction, so you'll see that we are having two N-type resistances like this. So we are having two resistances, one on the upper side and another on the lower side, which we are taking it as the variable resistance, that is RB1, and the PN junction diode is over there. So we are having a diode like of a structure in which the anode of that diode, we are calling it as the emitter, right? The cathode is still, it is an N-type material. So this is the actually the equivalent circuit of junction transistor, and that is actually unidirectional conductivity and negative impedance characteristics. So this is how we are going to divide this. So this neta is there, where neta is that ratio which I have told you, that the voltage across RB1 is equal to RB1 by RB1 plus RB2 into V in, whatever input voltage we are applying, right? So that is taken as neta, RB1 by RB1 plus RB2, that is neta. We see that. So, as the physical position of the PN junction is closer to terminal B2 than B1, the resistive value of RB2 will be less than RB1, right? So, since it is nearer to RB2, we'll have a less resistance with respect to RB1. Okay, so we'll have this RB2 smaller than the RB1. This is what it means, right? Since it is nearer to this B2 terminal, sorry, this PN junction diode. Okay, then these two series resistances produce a voltage divider network between the two base terminals of the unijunction transistor. So we are having this as a potential divider network. Then, since this channel stretches from B2 to B1, B2 to B1, when a voltage is applied across the device, the potential at any point along the channel will be in proportion to its position between terminals B2 and B1. Right. So this is how we can have different voltages. So this channel stretches from B2 to B1. Means the channel which is over there, I've shown this in I. This is the channel. So this blue color line is showing you the channel, and this channel can be stretched like, along from B2 to B1. This is what it means to say. So this is going to stretch from here, and the resistance across which we are going to vary accordingly, and will have different potential over there. Okay, so depending on RB1 and RB2, that is the resistance between the say and material, the channel through which it is going to pass. Okay, so this is how the level of the voltage gradient therefore depends upon the amount of supply voltage. Now, whatever supply voltage we are going to apply, that is it is going to define. Now the unijunction transistor, when used in a circuit, terminal B1 is connected to ground. So the bottom base terminal B1 is we are going to connect it to ground, and the emitter serves as the input to the device like this. So B1 is going to be connected to the ground, and suppose a voltage VBB is applied across the UJT between B2 and B1, so that B2 is biased positive relative to B1. So B2 is given a positive terminal, as you are able to see, and we call this voltage across this B2 and B1 is taken as VBB, right? So the total voltage which is applied across this is called as the VBB, and B2 is always positive as with respect to B1. So we take it with the another terminal. So it is more positive with respect to B1. Okay. With zero emitter input applied, the voltage developed across RB1, the lower resistance of the resistive voltage divider can be calculated as. Now, this can be calculated as this equation which we are talking about in the last slides. I've told you that this VR1 means the voltage across this resistance RB1 can be equated equal to the RB1 by RB1 plus RB2, means the resistance of across which we are expecting the output voltage to come, that is to be taken first. So RB1 divided by RB1 plus RB2, then this ratio we are calling it as neta, and which is multiplied by the input voltage. Now the input voltage we are taking here is VB. So we are expecting the output voltage VRB1 across this RB1. We are taking it as VRB1, and that is equal to RB1 by RB1 plus RB2 into the total voltage, that is VBB, right? And this ratio RB1 by RB1 plus RB2 is called as neta. is taken as neta. Okay, right. So for a unijunction transistor, the resistive ratio of RB1 plus RB1 to RBB is called the intrinsic standoff ratio. That is neta. That is that I told you that this ratio is called as this ratio. Neta is called as RB1 by RB1 plus RT. I am repeating it for you. For a unijunction transistor, the resistive ratio of RB1 to RBB is called the intrinsic standoff ratio. Intrinsic standoff ratio, and the symbol or it is nomenclature as neta. So neta is equal to RB1 by RB1 plus RB2, right? So this is the ratio of this potential divider. So the resistance across which we are expecting the output voltage, that is RB1, which is taken in the numerator side, and in the denominator side we will have the addition of both the resistance, that is equal to RB1 plus RB2. Okay, so this is there. Uh, Sorry, it is going in the reverse direction. Okay, so yeah, now this is what neta is. The typical standard values of neta ranges from zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.8 for most common UJTs. This is the equation of that neta, the value of neta which is in the resistance. So it ranges from zero point 0.8 to 0.5 to zero point 0.8 for most common UJTs. Then, if a small positive input voltage that is less than the voltage developed across resistance RB1 is now applied to the emitter. Now we have just given the inputs, voltages, that is the source voltage, we are calling it as the source voltage, which is given across the RB1 and RB2. So RB2 is positive with respect to RB1. Now, along with that, if you give a small input positive voltage to the emitter, is now applied, the diode PN junction is reverse biased, thus offering a very high impedance and the device does not conduct. Right. So as you give a reverse bias to the emitter of that, so what happens? The PN junction, the depletion layer will increase, and the current which was supposed to flow through that will decrease, right? Because the channel was clear, and now we have introduced the depletion layer. The UJT is switched off and zero current flows, right? So we call it as zero current is flowing through that. So if no current is flowing through UJT, that is, it is not conducting, then we call that UJT is off, is in off condition, and the zero current flows through it. However, when the emitter input voltage is increased and becomes greater than VRB1 or neta VBB plus zero point 0.7 volt, where zero point 0.7 volt equals to PN junction diode volt drop, which it requires for the further conduction, the or in forward bias, the PN junction becomes forward bias and unijunction transistor begins to conduct. Now you'll see this in graph, right? So when the emitter input voltage is increased and becomes greater than VRB1, that is equal to zero point 0.7 volts. That is neta VBB plus zero point 0.7 volt, where zero point 0.7 volt is equal to the PN junction diode's voltage drop, which is something which is actually required for the PN junction diode to be in forward bias, right? So then the transistor, unijunction transistor, begins to conduct. Okay, the result is that the emitter current beta IE now flows from the emitter into the base. So now the diode is in forward bias and the current is supposed to flow from there through the emitter to B2, B1. Sorry. Okay, so the UJT characteristics. Now this is very important. Now, as we have seen up till now, we have done all the graphs, VI characteristics of all the devices, right? From say the diode, LEDs, or say in that case Zener diode, and then MOSFET, FET, and all sorts of devices. Even in the case of SCRs and say TRIAC and DIAC, we have taken this graph VI characteristics, and on that note, we were having X voltage on X-axis and current on Y-axis. Now, in UJT characteristics, this is what is we are having a difference. We are taking the characteristics opposite to that, since we are increasing the emitter current and we are checking the voltage across the emitter, right? So that is how we are taking current, emitter current on x-axis, and the voltage we are taking it on the y-axis. So remember, this is the change. I've told you while drawing a graph, while plotting a graph, what we take, whatever we are supposed to change, that particular change is taken on the x-axis, whereas whatever we are getting out of that change, we are taking it on the y-axis, right? So the same concept is used over here. Here we are going to change the emitter current, and the emitter voltage accordingly is going to be changed. So that's why we have taken it on the x-axis, and the voltage drop across the emitter, we are taking it on the y-axis. Okay, so when we take this graph, we are able to see that initially when we applied the reverse voltage, we are having a reverse current flowing through this. So this reverse current, which is shown over here, uh, uh, in this side of this VP, that is zero. So it should remain zero, but due to that minority charge carrier, there is a reverse current which is flowing through that, and that is shown over here. Now, as you go on increasing the positive voltage and it is greater than NVBB plus zero point 0.7 volt, that time the current starts increasing through the transistor. Now the current is taken on the x-axis, right? So that's how I'm telling you that it is zero and it is in the negative direction initially. Then the as you go on increasing the voltage and the current starts increasing, right? So as it increases to VBB, meter VBB plus zero point 0.7 volt, then this current will also increase. Now, increase in the current will decrease the voltage. Okay, so here it's going to decrease the voltage with the increase in the current. So as you are able to see here, the current is being increased, and since we have taken it on the y-axis, the voltage of across the emitter is taken on the y-axis, the current is supposed to increase and the voltage is supposed to decrease. Now, if you see this point at over here, we are having some definitions related to this. We call it as when the voltage drops and current increases rapidly. This is called as the negative resistance region. Here, the resistance of the UJT, junction transistor, decreases. That's how the current is being increased. Okay, so this particular region we are calling it as the negative resistive region. So we can say that here we can define this as the region where the voltage across the UJT decreases and current through it increases. That particular region we are calling it as the negative resistance region. And after that, we are having a valley point, the point at which the current becomes maximum and the voltage is reduced to the minimum level, then that particular point is called as the valley point, or we call it as the cutoff voltage also. So we call it as a cutoff voltage over here. And the current at which we are having this valley point, we call it as the cutoff current, right? So we are having this. Now, in this region, cutoff region, the transistor is not going to work. The transistor is to work in this active region. Okay, where we are having this P point. And above this, after this valley point, we are having a saturation region, means where again the transistor is not expected to work. So these are some of the points which are concerned with that. We are having a leakage current. This is in the reverse bias direction. When the emitter is reverse bias, there is a small current, reverse small current, which is flowing in the transistor. Right. So as you go on increasing the voltage, as you go on increasing the current, again, very sorry for that. As you go on increasing the current, the voltage increases, and at a certain point, which we will call it as the peak voltage point, there from there the current starts increasing with the decrease in the voltage, and this region we are calling it as a negative resistance region, and this point is called as the valley point, where we are having the cutoff voltage as well as the cutoff current. Okay, and to conduct, or the transistor should be in active region, we should work at this transistor beyond this, above this. So in this region, it is supposed to act in the active region. And so this is a valley point, and we are having a saturation region again, since there the transistor is not expected to work. That is the saturation. I have told you what is the difference between saturation and cutoff. With the glass full of water, we can't fill the glass if it is already filled. So that particular level where the maximum water can be stored in a glass is called as the saturation, above which we cannot put any water inside the glass, right? So that is called as saturation. So above that also, it's not going to work. In the below, if you empty a glass, then the smallest water that is to be left and which is required, and we are not able to use that particular level of water that in a glass, that particular level is supposed to be called as the cutoff region. So here also the transistor is not going to work. So we have to work between the cutoff and saturation. There then only the transistor is called as to be working in the active region. So these are the characteristics of UJT, that is the junction transistor. And remember, this graph is very important. This graph is actually opposite to the other graphs where we were taking voltages on x-axis and current on y-axis. Here itself we are taking only here we are taking the current on the x-axis, whereas the voltage we are taking it on the y-axis. Since we are increasing or decreasing the current, and we are checking the voltage across the ammeter. Okay, so we are having the another characteristics like this. So we are having this voltages at different, say, emitter voltage, as you are able to see emitter current over here. So as you go on, sorry, across the voltage, different voltages across V1, V2, right? So we have applied this. So here VBB equal to 5 volts. So we'll have this type of a characteristic. If you increase VBB to 8 volt, then we might have this type of a characteristics for 12 volt, 15 volt. Again, we'll be having peak point for different levels like this. So this is how we are expecting the results to come in our practicals, right? So this is the value point for different 15 volts. This is the value point for 12 volt. This is the value point for 8, and this is the value point for the 5 volts which are being applied across the transistor. So we are applying some voltage, biasing. We call it as a biasing. So it's a biasing across the VB2 and VB1. Okay, so we can inference that as we increase the VBB, voltage across the transistor, the current IE also increases, or the peak voltage also across the emitter also increases, right? So this is the another graph with different base bias voltage, VB2N. There are some common applications of UJT. The most common application of the UJT junction transistor is as a triggering device for SCRs and triads. Now, these are some of the circuits that we are already using at our homes. Yesterday also, we have told. The other UJT applications include sawtooth generators, simple oscillator, phase control, and timing circuits. Now there is one more important application of that, that is actually called as the relaxation oscillator. So we have that in our syllabus. Now the simplest of all UJT circuit is the relaxation oscillator producing non-sinusoidal waveform. What is a sine wave? It is a analog signal that is having a positive half as well as a negative half. That is called as a sine wave. Now let us see. We are having it as a non-sinusoidal waveform. So we call it as a relaxation oscillator. Let us see what is a relaxation oscillator. Now this is included in your syllabus. In a basic and typical UJT relaxation oscillator circuit, the emitter terminal of the unijunction transistor is connected to the junction of a series connected resistors and capacitors. So now this emitter is given to the resistance and a capacitor type of a circuit here with two resistances, that is R2 and R2, which we call it as biasing resistors, and the voltages are applied across it. We are taking the output voltage at VB2 and VB1. So we are taking two voltages over here with respect to the ground. Okay, so we are having these two potential. And what happens on this? So how the circuit is going to work? So initially, when we start, right, over here, so what happens? The voltage across this is over here. So we are having a high voltage over here. Then what? As you go on, the voltage increases. The voltage across this capacitor also increases because it gets charged. Right? So as it's getting charged, so the emitter voltage is increased, and as a result of this, emitter voltage is increased. So the voltage across VB2 will start decreasing, means this VB2 will decrease, and in this duration there will be a spike, and VB1, the voltage across the V1 terminal will start increasing over here, right? And as soon as it reaches some point, which is approximately equal to zero. So if it is reaches this point reaches to zero, which implies that the capacitor will start discharging through this. So as soon as it starts discharging through this, the voltage across B2 will also again increase. So it will again increase with the spike. So it fast increases, and accordingly, then it's the capacitor starts discharging from here. So it discharges like this, and then it charges, and again it goes. So we'll have a non-sinusoidal waveform. If I able to see, this is not a sinusoidal wave. So yeah, so these are some of the equations that we are having. So we'll not have a sine wave like this. So we are having a VC, that is VBB, VC equal to VBB. The voltage across the capacitor is equal to VBB into 1 minus E raised to power minus P by R3 into C. So this is the equation according to which it is going to have, we are having this type of a wave. We call it somehow, if we call it as the sawtooth type of a wave. And if you if you take this like only this much of portion, if you take, so you'll be this will be appearing as a sawtooth waveform, right, with this timing center. So this is how we are having the UJT as a relaxation oscillator, out of which out of the capacitor, across the capacitor will be having this type of a waveform. So this is the charging of the capacitor, and this is the discharging of a capacitor. So charging is like this, and discharging is exponential. So the charging we are having this like this. So it charges and then it discharges. Then again charges and again discharges. So it goes on itself. So charging and discharging of a capacitor will give say a sawtooth waveform like of a structure across this R2, right? So across this R2 will be having this sorry VB2. So across this VB2 will be having this type of a sawtooth waveform. Okay, so this is shown over here on in this diagram, and this is the relaxation oscillator. We have some derivation portion of it also, so we won't go in depth of that. We'll just sum it up. So discharge of a capacitor occurs when VC equal to VP. So VP equal to VBB 1 minus E raised to power T R3 by C, and VP can be written as N into VBB. So we have, since voltage drop across the resistance is being ignored, we can have 1 minus meta equal to E raised to power minus C by R3 into C. So this is the equation. If you solve, will have the uh, value of the time constant over there. So time constant will be equal to R3C log of 1 by 1 minus beta. So if you remove this exponential, we'll be having the log. So this is ln. This ln stands for the log. Okay. So log of will have the time constant over there, and we'll have the waveforms like I have shown in the last. This is one of the example, that is the how you can calculate that, not in our syllabus. So this much is for today's lecture. I guess you have understood. If you have not, kindly let me know. We'll try to repeat that. Yes. So yeah, today we have studied unijunction transistor. So that is UJT, because it is having only one junction, that is P-type and N-type material. So UJT is another solid state three-terminal device that can be used in gate pulse timing circuits and trigger generator application to switch and control thyristors and tracks for AC power control applications. And equivalent circuits are UJTs have unidirectional conductivity, and we are having a potential divider type of a circuit like this. So we are having two RB2. It can be resembled as like, it is not like this, but it can be equated like this. So it is an equivalent circuit. Right? So it may appear like we are having two resistances, RB2 and RB1, where RB1 is supposed to be variable and the voltage which is connected across V2 and V1 can be divided in the form of neta VBB, right? So that is called as the intrinsic ratio. So these two resistances, so the resistance switches from B2 to B1, likewise. Okay, so we have studied this, and also if zero emitter input applied is a voltage is applied across this, so that develops lower resistance of resistive voltage, and this can be calculated by this equation. VRB1 equal to RB1 by RB1 plus RB2 into VB. Okay, that is the output voltage. Then this ratio RB1 by RB1 plus RB2 is called as the neta. That is the intrinsic standoff ratio. Sorry, intrinsic standoff ratio. That is neta. Okay. So I guess it is again reversed. Yeah. So this one is called as the intrinsic standoff ratio. Neta, that is equal to RB1 by RB1 plus RB2, and the value of it is ranges from zero point 0.5 to zero point 0.8 ohms, right? So this is all actually resistance of this. So resistance is taken in terms of ohm, the unit of resistance is ohm. So yeah, so when we are how to connect it and what are the characteristics of it. So this is actually the characteristics of the UJT, in which we are taking emitter current on x-axis and emitter voltage on the y-axis, right? And these are some more graphs where we are increasing the base bias voltage or the voltages across B2 and B1. As you changes the voltages, you are able to see the current, i.e. emitter current, also increase. So if you have a low voltage or B2 across B2 and B1, then we'll have this graph. If you have high voltage like 15 volt across B2 and B1, then we might have high peak point, that is around 12 volts, and the valley point which will come around say 6 or 7 volts, 6 to 7 volts in between that. Right, so this is another graph. These are UJT characteristics. We have studied the UJT application. The main application of UJT is this relaxation oscillator. So remember this circuit in the basic and typical UJT relaxation oscillator circuit. The emitter terminal of unijunction transistor is connected to the junction of a series connected resistor and capacitor. You're able to see over here, this is the simplest circuit diagram. We are having two resistances, R2 and R1 over here, and the same supply is being given to R3, and the capacitor is connected, and the central terminal of this is connected to the emitter. So this is the simplest circuit of say the UJT as a relaxation oscillator, and we will be having the output voltage across 2 points, VB2 as well as VB1, and with respect to ground, of course, right? Yeah, so this is the equation, and this is the waveform that we are expecting. Okay, these are the equations. Yeah, so this is the graph which we get, and this is the charging and discharging of a capacitor, and this is voltage across this capacitor over here. We call it as DC with respect to time. And across R2 will be having some spikes or sawtooth type of a waveform if you eliminate this portion from here. So VB2 will give you this type of sawtooth waveform, and we call this circuit as a relaxation oscillator. And this is the equation or say the derivation portion of it. And example, we are not concerned with it. So thank you very much for joining. And I guess you have understood today's talk. If you have any issues, you can question, unmute yourself and you can question. Okay, do you have any questions? Hello, or have you got it? Do you have any questions? Thank you very much for joining. Go through my YouTube channel, watch my videos, like, subscribe, and share. And I will be uploading more videos on this. So stay tuned to my YouTube channel. By the meantime, stay home, stay safe, take care. See you in the next class. Good day. Have a nice time. Bye.